All right, get ready, because today we're diving headfirst into the world of alchemy.
And not just alchemy in general, we're talking about one of its most intriguing figures, Paracelsus.
Paracelsus, right. I feel like I've heard that name before. Vaguely, at least.
You've probably heard whiskers of turning lead into gold, right?
Mm.
Mysterious elixirs, maybe even something called the Philosopher's Stone.
Oh, yeah, now you're talking. But what's the real story there? Was any of that actually real?
Well, that's exactly what we're going to uncover today as we take a deep dive into the writings of Paracelsus.
I am so ready. Let's do it. So who was this Paracelsus guy, anyway? And why should we care about what he wrote centuries later?
Well, let me tell you, Paracelsus was not afraid to shake things up. Back in his day, everyone just accepted the word of ancient authorities as gospel truth, you know? Aristotle, Galen, those guys.
Yeah, those names ring a bell from history class, maybe.
Right, exactly. But Paracelsus, he basically burst onto the scene like, hold my beer! I'm about to completely revolutionize medicine and alchemy. I'm going to reveal secrets that have been hidden for ages.
Whoa, that's a power move right there. He sounds like a total rock star. What did he know that other people didn't? Or at least thought he knew?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Now, I'll be honest, some of his ideas might seem a little out there to us today, but remember.
Yeah, times were different back then.
Exactly. Paracelsus was living during a period of huge intellectual change. This was a time when people were questioning everything, new discoveries were happening all the time.
So it was like a really exciting time to be in medicine and science.
Absolutely. But even in that environment, Paracelsus was pushing the boundaries of knowledge, especially when it came to observing and understanding the natural world. He was convinced there were deeper levels of reality just waiting to be unlocked.
Okay, so it sounds like we're talking about more than just a guy tinkering in his basement. This is bigger than just turning lead into gold, isn't it? So what was Paracelsus's actual take on all that? Did he think you could actually do it?
The age-old quest for transmutation. And yes, Paracelsus did believe in it. But for him, alchemy was about way more than that.
Okay, so what else was he trying to do with alchemy?
Imagine this. Paracelsus believed in three fundamental substances, what he called the three prime substances. He saw these substances as being like the basic ingredients for everything in the universe. Trees, stars, you, me.
Hold on, so you're saying everything is made up of just three things?
That's what he believed. But he wasn't talking about your everyday mercury, sulfur, and salt. He saw them as something more.
More spiritual, magical even.
You could say that. He believed they held both physical and spiritual qualities. It was like these substances held the secrets to both the material and the spiritual realms.
Wow, that's where things get really interesting, this idea of merging the physical and the spiritual. It kind of reminds me of how, even in modern chemistry, we're still trying to understand how different elements interact and combine to create, well, everything.
Exactly. In a way, Paracelsus was on the same quest centuries ago.
Just approaching it from a different angle.
Yeah.
So what were these prime substances and how did they play into his idea of alchemy?
Well, he called them mercury, sulfur, and salt.
Wait, like the stuff you find on the periodic table?
Kind of, but not exactly. Paracelsus saw them as much more than just their physical forms. For example, he believed that metals like the ones we see every day were actually imperfect. He thought they had the potential to become perfect, which hinted at the possibility of transforming one metal into another.
Wait, so he thought you could actually change the very essence of something like lead into gold. How was that even supposed to work?
Well, he believed each metal was essentially a form of mercury, but at different stages of, let's call it coagulation.
Coagulation. Okay, you're going to have to break that one down for me.
Basically, he thought the influence of sulfur and salt determined a metal's unique properties. And get this, he argued that mercury was actually hot by nature.
Hot. But isn't mercury like a liquid at room temperature? That seems pretty not hot.
That was his point. He'd say, think about it, you need heat to melt metal, right? But mercury is already liquid.
Huh. I never thought about it like that. I guess that's why he's Paracelsus and I'm not. Okay, so by somehow manipulating these prime substances, you could, according to Paracelsus, change the very makeup of a metal.
That's exactly what he believed. He even thought that celestial bodies like the stars and planets played a role.
Wait, what? How do stars and planets fit into all of this?
He called it the astrum. Basically, the idea that celestial bodies directly influence the properties of materials here on Earth and could even affect the outcome of alchemical processes.
Okay, so we've got these prime substances, this idea of transmutation, and now you're telling me there are celestial influences involved too. It's starting to sound like a very complex and maybe a little mystical system. But you mentioned something earlier, something about a philosopher's stone. Now, that's something I've definitely heard whispers about.
Oh yeah, the Philosopher's Stone.
So what was that all about? Was that a real thing, or was it all just, a legend?
Well, that's a story for another time, or at least another part of our deep dive.
All right, you've definitely piqued my curiosity. You're going to have to tell me more about this philosopher's stone. But for now, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back to unravel more of Paracelsus's secrets, so don't go anywhere. All right, so before we took that quick break, you were about to tell me about this mysterious philosopher's stone. Lay it on me. What was it all about?
The Philosopher's Stone. Ah, yes, now we're talking about the holy grail of alchemy.
The ultimate treasure.
Exactly. Rumored to hold the key to immortality, boundless wealth, ultimate power. It's no wonder it's captured people's imaginations for centuries.
So what was Paracelsus's take on this legendary stone? Did he think it was a real, tangible thing? Or something more, well,
Symbolic.
That's a great question. Paracelsus believed it wasn't like a rock you dig up, not a literal stone, but more of a substance, something carefully prepared that had incredible properties. Imagine the ability to not only transmute metals, but also to heal any ailment.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hold on, back up. Are you saying this one thing could cure anything, any sickness? That's what he believed. The ultimate prize.
Okay, so this stone, if it existed, would be incredibly powerful. But if alchemists were really onto something, why all the secrecy? Why not share with the world and help everyone?
Imagine possessing the secrets to immortality and infinite wealth.
Yeah, okay, I get it. That kind of knowledge could be misused, definitely.
Exactly. Plus, Paracelsus, like many alchemists, believed true understanding was earned, not just given away. You had to put in the work.
So it was like an exclusive club. Only those deemed worthy enough could learn the secrets.
Kind of, but back to your question about the recipe.
Right, the recipe. Did he ever reveal how to make this philosopher's stone?
He hinted at it, but in typical Paracelsus fashion, never fully revealed all his secrets.
Classic.
Oh, come on, don't let me hang it. At least tell me what he said.
Well, he did say it involved gold and silver.
Okay, that makes sense. Precious metals. Right. Sure, but not just any gold or silver. He specifically said you needed particular types of these metals. He compared making the stone to a tree bearing fruit, emphasizing that it was all about understanding and replicating nature's processes.
So no magic spells or incantations.
Not exactly. More about tapping into nature's hidden powers.
Interesting. So if he had this recipe, why were other alchemists failing?
Because so many were way off track, trying all sorts of bizarre things. For example, some thought plants held the key, like the juice of a celandine flower.
Seriously? They thought you could just squeeze a few flowers and boom, philosopher's stone.
You'd be surprised. And it didn't stop there. Others were obsessed with animal products, even mythical creatures like the basilisk.
The basilisk, like the legendary serpent creature.
The one and only. Can you imagine the lengths people went to?
Oh, I bet. It must have been chaos. So what about the alchemists who stuck to the lab?
Well, they weren't always much better. They were convinced that certain minerals were the answer, experimenting with anything they could get their hands on, from common sulfur to, believe it or not, arsenic.
Arsenic. The poison. Talk about a health hazard. It's amazing anyone survived some of these alchemical experiments. What did Paracelsus think of all these creative approaches?
He thought they were totally misguided, stemming from a fundamental misunderstanding of the prime substances.
So it wasn't just about mixing things together and seeing what happened.
Definitely not. He believed real alchemy wasn't about haphazard experiments or chasing myths. It required deep understanding, precision, and respect for nature. He was really big on that.
So you actually had to know what you were doing, not just winging it in the lab.
Exactly. He stressed a refined and precise approach, not blindly following recipes or chasing rumors. He was advocating for a deeper understanding of the forces that govern the universe.
Okay, this is all fascinating, but I have to admit, I'm still not quite sure I get it. Like, how would someone even begin to do this alchemy stuff? Were there special tools or something? What did Paracelsus say about that?
Well, he emphasized two key things, what he called the secret fire and the philosophical vessel, both essential but often misunderstood.
Okay, now we're getting to the good stuff. Secret fires and philosophical vessels. It sounds like something straight out of an Indiana Jones movie. Tell me everything. What were they?
The secret fire wasn't a literal fire like flames, but more of a subtle internal heat. Think of it like the life force within all living things,
Yeah.
something you cultivate, not create.
So more like an inner spark than, a bonfire.
Exactly. And then there's the philosophical vessel. This wasn't just any container. Paracelsus was very specific about its shape and what it was made of. He believed it played a vital role in controlling those transformative energies we talked about.
So the shape and material mattered. It's like it was more than just a container, right?
Right, it had to be in harmony with the process.
Fascinating. It really seems like Paracelsus was trying to elevate alchemy beyond just the physical. He was after something much deeper, don't you think?
Without a doubt. He was bridging the gap between the physical and the spiritual, trying to understand the interconnectedness of everything.
That's amazing. And to think he was exploring these ideas centuries ago, he was way ahead of his time. But I have to ask, with all this talk about the deeper meaning of alchemy, do you think Paracelsus was actually trying to achieve physical transmutation? Like, did he really believe he could turn lead into gold? Or was he after something more profound, more symbolic through his work?
Yeah, that is the ultimate question. Was it all about actually transforming lead into gold?
Mhm.
Or was that just a metaphor for something more personal?
Right, like a personal transformation.
Exactly. Maybe the real philosopher's stone wasn't the substance, but the process of self-discovery.
So maybe we've been interpreting it all wrong all these years.
Maybe. But to really understand Paracelsus, we have to delve into another fascinating aspect of his work, his ideas about medicine.
Oh, right. He was a physician, wasn't he? I'd love to hear about that. What were his views on medicine? All right, let's talk about Paracelsus the physician. What was so radical about his approach to medicine?
Well, you have to remember, back then, most doctors were stuck in the past, still clinging to ancient Greek theories.
Yeah, kind of hard to let go of those old traditions, I guess.
Right. But Paracelsus, he wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo. He thought these old school doctors relied too much on superstition and not enough on actual, observation.
So he was like, out with the old, in with the new.
Basically, he was all about direct experience, understanding the body through observation and experimentation. Paracelsus really emphasized the importance of what he called the inner alchemist.
The inner alchemist, what does that even mean?
He believed we all have this innate healing power within us.
Oh, okay. So he wasn't just interested in treating the physical body, right? It was about something more.
Exactly. He believed in treating the whole person, mind, body, and spirit. He was way ahead of his time.
Kind of like holistic medicine today.
Exactly. He was a pioneer of that kind of thinking, way back in the 16th century.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it. Centuries ago, he was already talking about ideas that are becoming popular again today.
He was really onto something. He understood that everything is interconnected, the physical, the mental, the spiritual.
And that's a really powerful idea, I think. We're still grappling with that today, trying to understand how all these different parts of ourselves fit together.
Exactly, and that's what makes Paracelsus so fascinating to study. Even centuries later, his ideas still resonate. He was a true visionary, challenging conventional wisdom and pushing the boundaries of knowledge.
He definitely sounds like someone who ruffled a few feathers in his day.
Oh, definitely. But he also left behind a legacy that continues to inspire us to question, to explore, and to never stop searching for deeper meaning.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the mysteries of alchemy to Paracelsus's groundbreaking ideas on medicine. We've really explored it all.
And we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to discover in the writings of Paracelsus.
It's true. He was a complex and often contradictory figure, but there's no denying his impact on the world. His ideas about alchemy and medicine, even if they seem a bit out there at times, they still challenge us to think differently, to question our assumptions, and maybe even to tap into our own inner alchemist.
And isn't that what it's all about? Pushing the boundaries of knowledge, exploring new possibilities, and never losing sight of that sense of wonder and curiosity.
Absolutely. It's been an incredible journey exploring the world of Paracelsus with you today. And for all of you listening out there, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time when we'll be exploring another fascinating chapter in history.